Hey, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the town board meeting for June 11th, 2025 at roughly 6:30 p.m. We are remote, so what we do is when we run our meetings, we've got a Zoom going, so folks can tune in. We're also streaming to Facebook and to our website. If you ever are interested in participating in one of our meetings remotely, the instructions to join are at the top of each of our agendas. So just say we are trying out a new boardroom configuration. Please feel free to send any comments. Our goal, just so everybody's aware, to make sure that the audience has priority to see the screen. I know that's been an issue for us. We've got our own version of the screen right here. But the other thing too is when you're at the podium, you can kind of see everybody rather than trying to, kind of look back and forth between, the folks you're here with. And so please let us know, everybody, if there's any feedback on the setup. We're still working on the tech a little bit, but let us know how it goes. So, next up, I will ask Councilor Priestley to lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so I don't have any signups for open podium. If you're here virtually, please use the raise hand function if you'd like to speak at open podium. And then just any show of hands if anybody would like to speak at open podium. So not one of the 4 hearings we have on the agenda for today. Okay, we're good then. So first up, Tree Commission presentation by Davey Resource Group.
Sorry.
Yep.
It worked. You should be good to go and your clicker should work, so.
All right, thanks so much, everyone. Good evening, my name is Andrew Ullman. I am the Davey Resource Group. Thank you for having me. I'm here tonight to present do a joint presentation on the findings, sort of high-level findings of the tree inventory that we did for the town of Manlius and the village of Fayetteville. As I mentioned, I'm with Davey Resource Group. Our parent company, the Davey Tree Expert Company, has been around since 1880. In fact, we've been doing tree inventories. A friend of mine recently called to say that he found a paper-based tree inventory from Oswego from 1931. So it tells you a little bit about how long we've been doing these projects. So,
They're not working.
no, okay. Wait, can I just ask you to advance the slides?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. So quick agenda. I'm going to try and go through this fairly quickly. I know you'll have a lot of work to do tonight, and then I'll leave some time for questions here. But just quickly going to talk about why the heck do we do a tree inventory? Why would we really care about that? Run through the findings for both the town and the village. Talk a little bit about the benefits, the ecological benefits provided by the each of the inventory tree populations that we found, and then leave a little time for questions if there are any. Next slide, please. Okay, so why would we do a tree inventory? I've often got a quizzical look from people and said, "Why would you count trees? Really, who cares?" But the main purpose is to, we work with a lot of communities, and the idea is to shift from reactive management, like, oh geez, this tree fell over, or something bad happened, we need to go deal with it, to a more proactive approach. And to do that, like any resource, you need to start with a baseline understanding of what you have before you can figure out what to do with it. So what we did in both of these projects is identify all of the trees, stumps, and available planting sites in the public rights of way. Created a database of them. They were all geolocated and put into a GIS, which is, for anyone unfamiliar with that, it's basically a digital map of them. The idea, when it to elaborate a little bit on the proactive management is to identify, oftentimes tree maintenance is prioritized by risk. There is a industry standard that we run through that the International Society of Arboriculture put together to identify and prioritize maintenance based on the risk a tree poses, whether it's dead branches, dead trees, things like that. You can also help with species diversity. We, as urban foresters, kind of learn our lessons in tree time, which means decades rather than, more quickly. So we look at things like Dutch elm disease. I don't know if anybody is old enough to remember when all the streets were lined with elm trees. Most of them are gone now because they were monocultures. Dutch elm disease took them all out. So now we look at decomposition and diversity and try to help minimize the risk of any given pathogen, pest, things like that. And then help with, maintenance needs, again, prioritizing what limited budgets there may be. Y'all are the perfect audience to ask. Raise your hand if you have an unlimited budget for trees. Right, so bad jokes aside, the idea is let's pick the trees that really need the work the most and focus on those first. The best use, prioritize the budget. Next slide, please. Okay, so, no, that's actually, you're good. So this is a map for the town's inventory. We found a total of just over 7,500 sites. We define sites as a combination of trees, stumps, and available planting sites or vacant planting sites. I won't run through all that because I imagine everybody can read that. The only thing I want to talk about is the vacant sites, the designations of small, medium, and large correlate to the size and maturity that the site will accommodate. So large vacant site, large tree. That means no overhead wires, plenty of rooting zone, all those kinds of things. Next slide, please.
I just had a question.
Sure.
What is the blue and the green? What are the circles mean?
Those are let me see, brown, there's a couple brown in there, those are the stumps. Blue are the trees and the green are the vacant sites.
Okay. And does that include state-owned property like the Erie Canal Trail?
No, we kept it to the towns right away.
Okay.
And didn't do county roads, state roads, things like that kind of thing. That's in part due to DEC funding requirements and things like that. So, okay, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Next slide, please. So this is just a basic bar graph breakdown of what we found. I mentioned earlier, depicted in another way. Next slide, please. So here's where we get into some of the diversity that I talked about. There is something in the world of urban community forestry known as the 10-20-30 rule, wherein you don't want to have your tree population to have more than 10% of any one species, more than 20% of any one genus, more than 30% of any one family. Manlius is actually doing pretty good. The species, sugar maple is a little over that 10% rule of thumb, but not a huge deal. The genus is a little bit also over the ideal target, but the good news is the fix for that is planting trees. Who doesn't love that? So that's a good way to kind of think about changing that, moving sliders on those bars to work on lowering those two, the maple species and genus there. Any questions on that slide before? Okay.
Are we missing any categories that we should have?
Categories.
Like if we've got maple, spruce, like is there anything that we should have there that we don't? Like are we missing things that we should?
Like oak or something?
Yeah.
I don't know if they're missing, they're just represented in lower populations. So if you want to kind of think about if you want more oaks, you've got space for them, So I'm not sure I would think about it in kind of what's missing, but sort of the proportions of them, if that makes sense.
I'm thinking of like diversification of the different species in the event that something else comes that like takes out all the maples. We don't, like if Like, does it make sense to diversify more than what we have?
It can't hurt, I'll say that, you know, it certainly can't hurt. You're in pretty good shape in that it's only the maples that are really over that rule of thumb threshold, and not hugely, but it never hurts to, I mean, it's not just the disease and pests, I mean, it feels like every year some new invasive pest or disease coming in.
Yeah.
But we're seeing native trees struggle from, you know, what we think are anywhere, the impacts of climate change, kind of the drought, flood, drought, you know, those sorts of things. Some trees are doing better than others, but as a way to kind of try and minimize the harm from that, mitigate the risk, you know, the short answer is yeah, keep planting. And if you've got anybody who's a serious tree nerd like myself, start experimenting. Some folks are bringing up trees from a little further south, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, the mid-Atlantic states, to see how they do up here in sort of preparation for some of those changes that we're anticipating. Yeah. Okay, next slide, please. So here's, I mean, this is the next good slide. Some of those, the spotted lanternfly right there is one of our latest invasive pests. I wouldn't call it good news, but the less terrible news about that one is it doesn't often kill trees unless it has repeated infestations year after year. Its favorite host is another invasive tree that we didn't find very many of, if any, population. The Asian longhorn beetle is another, that's a really bad one. However, it's been eradicated, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been eradicated from New York except for Long Island. Right? There's a little bit in Massachusetts. They've done a good job really eradicating that. Some of you are probably familiar with emerald ash borer. That's another really terrible one, but most of the ash it's been around long enough that they're either dead or, you know, they're hiding in little pockets of resilience there. And then, you know, beech leaf disease is another newish one, but the science seems to be catching up pretty quickly with how to try and care for, if you have any particularly valuable beech that are really beautiful, you really want to try and preserve them. There is some research out there that may help with that. And I should add, you know, specifically when it comes to this stuff or other questions about diversity, things like that, even after I go, feel free to please reach out. I'm always happy to talk trees. So this isn't your only opportunity to ask questions. Next slide, please. So this is, you know, moving into sort of prioritizing maintenance. We also assess the condition of each tree that we look at, and this is a breakdown of the categories of them. The good news is there were a very low percentage of trees that we considered poor. Dead trees are obvious. And you know, the thing, you know, there's a decent proportion in there of fair, but there is a subset of that proportion that could move into good if certain measures were taken. That it's they're kind of broad categories, so they can be placed into the good or fair categories either based on maintenance. They just need some pruning, it will then move into good condition. Maybe need some additional watering to help it get over the hump, things like that. So it's not only a downward trajectory from there. But yeah, we just like to show the breakdown of the full population that we inventoried and where they get bucketed by condition. Next slide, please. Okay, now I'm going to move into some of the benefits that are provided by the trees we inventoried. Next slide, please. This is a pie chart of the amount and dollar value of carbon that's sequestered on an annual basis, the amount of stormwater runoff that has been mitigated, and air pollution that gets removed each year. Those numbers might seem a little small, but just keep in mind that's every year. Those are, and trees are, well, maybe with the exception of classic cars or antiques, something like that, they're one of the few resources that actually grow in value as they age, you know, to a point. But these numbers will get bigger on a per tree basis, provided that the trees are maintained, healthy, and cared for. Okay, next slide, please. So this is, sorry, there's a lot of text on there, but broken out by species and total count of each of the trees, and then those ecological benefits that I mentioned by the most common species that we found. So you can see that there's some of the big ticket items, I would say, you know, particularly for us in New York, where too much water is often our problem. You've got nearly 1.5 million gallons of stormwater mitigated each year by the trees that we inventory. That does not take into account all the trees on private property and other. So I mean, these numbers here are limited exclusively to publicly owned trees that we inventory. So just keep that in mind too. Next slide, please. Okay, so before I move into the trees we did for the village, any questions about the town here? Okay, so I'll move in and we'll look at the same things for the village here. Next slide, please. This is the total count of tree stumps and planting sites that we found. Next slide, please. And a breakdown of the most common species that we found. Again, keeping the 10, 20, 30 rule in mind here. There's really just the one species there that kind of pushed over that threshold. But because sugar and Norway maples are both maples and fall into the same genus, we'll see that pushes over the 20% rule. So some room for tree planting to be done and different species to be planted. But all in all, you know, kind of when I think about both the town and the village in the context of all the other communities that I've worked with throughout the Northeast, are both in pretty good shape comparatively. So, next slide, please. This is just breakdown, further breakdown by population there. Next slide, please. And yeah, here's another the invasive pests and some diseases that we looked at for the town's trees, representing the village's trees. You know, the same spotted lanternfly, Asian longhorn beetle are kind of the big ones. The 10 caterpillars are typically cyclical, so I don't get too worried about that, meaning there will be a really bad year for them, and then you won't see a terrible problem for them for several years. Yeah.
Thank you. Mark that.
Yeah.
The items you're talking about, really these are the this is not, you haven't spotted any spotted flies or anything like that in the village, correct? So far, we're good with that, but because of the species we have, this is our susceptibilities that we're talking about.
Correct. Yes.
And make sure, because this relates also to the towns.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks for bringing that up. That's an important distinction. What I should have mentioned earlier is that these pests and pathogens have been found in Onondaga County. Doesn't necessarily mean we found them on the trees here. So they are present in the area, but you're correct. We did not necessarily find them on these trees here.
But you're not looking specifically for these either. Or are you looking specifically?
We do also look for those things, but the only thing to add to that is that, you know, if it's the wrong, you know, if they're not adults, we may not see them. Correct. So.
Thank you.
Trustee Claire Hammerstead from Fayetteville. But does it matter when the tree inventory was done? Because both of our tree inventories were done in December and January. So it wouldn't be something that we would see necessarily.
Correct. Yep. There are things that we would look for, like spotted lanternfly. You can see the egg masses if they're in the right place. Typically, they're higher up in the tree, but if it's a really bad infestation, you may be able to see them from the ground. They're also they've evolved to hide those egg masses, so they're not easy to find. Yeah, also a good question. There are things that we may not see. You would see remnants of the 10 caterpillars. They would still, you know, be some of them up there. You might find egg masses. Longhorn beetle would be, I think it would be highly unlikely that it would be somebody doing the tree inventory. The state or the feds would likely already know that they would be in the area. So does that help? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, next slide, please. And this is, yeah, again, just a condition breakdown of the inventory trees. Very similar situation. The good news is that there are really very few trees that we found in poor or dead condition. And the comments I made before about the town's trees and sort of the trajectories, potential trajectories of condition is of course the same for the village. Next slide, please. And I'll talk a little bit about the next slide, the benefits here for the village. This is just a representation using the same criteria of what we talked about with the town's trees, sort of the breakdowns of those and dollar values. The reason those numbers are lower is just because it was fewer trees. Next slide, please. And this is the villages table, the most common species we found, counts, and the associated values for those ecological services. Any questions on that before we move on? And I know it's a lot of text on there, sorry. I haven't found a better way to represent all of that without putting together a busy table.
But I think for people who can't read the small type, the replacement value is over $4 million. So that's kind of the benefit of what we already have to take advantage.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Councilor. That's an important number too that they did not bring up on the towns. But what that replacement value means is how much would it cost to, like, think about one tree, a beautiful 30-inch sugar maple that's in great condition. How many 3-inch trees would you have to plant, and the cost for all that to provide the same amount of ecological benefit that 30-inch tree is? So that's what that dollar value represents. It's a replacement value. And there is a standard formula and approach that urban foresters go through to arrive at those values. Thanks for bringing that up.
Could I just add that anyone watching or any of us in the audience can access this off the town website, right from the agenda. So if you really want to study it, it's available to you.
Yes, thank you. Next slide, please. Just a quick list. I think most of you probably have heard these many times, but these are just some of the reasons that we should really care about trees in our communities. They can measurably decrease the cost of heating and cooling our homes, our businesses. They stabilize the soil. Saw the sort of values attached to the reductions in air pollution, property values, things like that. So we always like to talk about that, even though a lot of us have heard it many times. Next slide, please. I think that might be, so this will be my last slide here. Just a quick summary again, why would we do a tree inventory? You need to establish a baseline to understand your resource before you can proactively manage it. Next slide. And that is it for me. Try to keep it short and sweet. Any questions? Anything else?
Yeah, with the map that you showed of where we have a lot of potential for planting trees.
Yep.
Are you able to, or did you identify priority areas where shading would be the most beneficial for us or for the village to pursue planting trees in those areas?
That was not part of the scope of the project, but we can pretty easily. That can be done. There is a suite of tools. One of them is called iTree. Davey is a major partner with the U.S. Forest Service on that, and there is one of the tools in that suite. You can use parameters like shading, cooling of buildings, and for kind of getting down to the granularity of placement of trees if you want to. You can also kind of do it at a zoomed out scale, like we want to do this neighborhood, or this neighborhood has fewer trees, let's focus there. We want to focus on a particular business area, things like that. Particularly when the trees are mapped like that, you kind of have a visual representation. That's kind of the most straightforward way to do it, but there are certainly other ways to kind of drill down a little further if you want to get into more granular approaches or lines of thinking about where you want to plant.
And I had asked earlier if you looked at like state property like Erie Canal, and too much of you did not.
Yep.
I hate walking on the Erie Canal because I get so hot because there's no shade, no trees. how do we get the state to plant trees if that's outside the scope of the town can control?
That is a great question. The first thing that comes to mind is their Governor Hochul allocated an awful lot of money for tree planting under the Community Reforestation Grant Program, the core grants they're called. I think the latest round is closed, but it's my understanding there are going to be future rounds of funding. I would start asking the DEC. Any other
I can help you.
suggestions? Yeah.
Great. And who are you?
I'm Leanna with Cornell Water Section of Onondaga County.
Great.
This is a resource for both of the tree commissions, which is fantastic.
Great. Thank you.
I'm subcontracted on this grant.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Stephanie, did you have any questions for?
No, I'm really just here to support Andrew and the other tree commission members who are tonight. We've been working with Davey throughout the process, and they kept us updated throughout the entire inventory process. We got 18 rounds. There was a very long process to decide what was the inventory scope, and they also shared their management report with us pretty early on. So we had a chance to look at the data and everything, and we're really proud of the inventory.
Great. For those of you who don't know, Stephanie is the chair of the tree commission. And Stephanie, do you have any ideas at this time for what can we do next? Like we've got the inventory now, what do we do?
We're looking for planting sites, and we just added on the tree commission webpage on the site where residents can enter their information and request a tree. We'll do our best to match the requests with the available planting sites. That's what we're looking at for the season. We're operating with a pretty small budget. So that's just kind of our work for this year is filling out those available planting sites as people want them and request them. And we'll also continue to work with HOAs. My member here, Kenya, is kind of a wizard for connecting the community to available planting sites. And that's how we've been operating for the past at least 7-8 years or so. Yeah. So going forward, we're going to be using the inventory to procure grant funding and really target different areas throughout the town of Manlius. So we have certain neighborhoods and our sites and we'll be able to longer term.
Did you, with the results of the study, have you identified already key locations where you think like, okay, that makes sense, we'll be focusing there?
Not yet. I mean, we have all this data as far as finding sites. What we do not have yet is the mapping and that software program. So we really get in. That's the last piece. Getting everything.
Oh, well,
I just wanted to add for our communities that because the Village of Fayetteville has 19 parks, we have a lot of other trees that are not included in this inventory. So applying for the state grants is going to be an important priority for us because we don't have that information on all of them. Only those street trees. And hopefully that will be announced in the early fall. And I hear the word hope is the way they describe it. But these the inventory, both municipalities by investing in the inventory and the management plans have helped set up the grant writers to be able to document this. Village of Fayetteville tried in the past, and without the inventory, would not get the funding. So
yeah, it's like a starting place.
yeah, you have to show you've done this much and you know what the next steps are, that those are the ones that will attract funding.
I will say, I live on Center Street in the Village of Fayetteville, and I walk up Elm and it's lovely, and then you get to Center Street and it's just like the sun just beats down. So if you're looking to plant trees in Village, Center Street, 100 block, we would appreciate it.
Anyone listening can contact Village. Like your information.
Consider this my official contact.
Okay. For you, town councilor, that is. Do you have questions?
Yeah.
Tom Bassett, Manlius. I'll try to get this outside the scope report, but are there any existing mitigation procedures in place as far as to try to suppress the insect population or the disease population, such as spraying or any other activities to try to prevent or eliminate existing damage from those?
Yeah, I hate to answer questions with it depends, but it depends. And what I mean more specifically by that is depends on which pest or pathogen we're talking about. For example, Asian longhorn beetle, they've been going hard on it for years because it will wipe out, I mean, entire communities. It will kill almost every species of tree. And so they've totally eradicated it from almost all of New York State, with the exception of some small pockets in Long Island that they're working to get rid of. There are a handful of small pockets left in Massachusetts, but I personally, I think that's an example of a successful approach to doing that. Things like hemlock woolly algid, which are a problem around here, you can spray for that, but
You're talking about what could be done.
Yeah.
There's no existing program that anybody's aware of.
it's,
I was saying, there's
In the
regular
town.
maintenance that you're doing on, or, yeah, so we don't, nothing right now proactive about pest management.
My understanding is that it's extremely challenging, if not impossible, and astronomically expensive, so probably, like what we've seen with the ash trees, they all just die, and like ticks and everything else, like all these things are so difficult to manage.
We actually do a bit of spraying for the,
Yep.
in the village as well, but it's like Caleb was saying, this is just, it's overwhelming. You know, places you've got, so it's
yeah. There, when it comes to emerald ash borer, what I typically recommend is, if you have trees that are really valuable, individual ash trees or an LA tree, something like that, that you want to preserve, and you've got the budget for it, great. Otherwise, the unfortunate news is, some of the plant scientists are in seed saving mode and are expecting to lose most, if not all, the ash trees. I wish I had better news for you on that front.
the county position on that in the parks, by the way, is they're removing them. So that's pretty standard, because you just can't keep up with it.
Yeah, they're just gonna die anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
If I could just add a comment, that we would not be in such great condition as a village and a town if we hadn't had dedicated workers behind the scenes taking care of these trees over time. And I assume that's the case for the town, and I know that's the case for the village. Our DPW does a lot of work on trees, has its own budget on trees, is almost constantly having to either bring in consultants or work themselves on trees. So we need to think of it, be thankful to them for the work that they have done over time to put us in such a great position to move forward.
Yeah. Before I joined Navy, I used to work for New York City Parks and was the director of Brooklyn's Forestry Division. The reason I mention that is because public servants never hear that. So it's good to remember to, say those things. If there are no other questions, one other thought came to mind before I finish regarding funding. In addition to those 4 grants that I mentioned, and I think Casey brought up there, now that you both have tree inventories and management plans, you will be eligible for maintenance and tree planting grants from the state. Those are we got to have those done first, but now that those are in place, you will be eligible to apply for those grants too. Casey, you didn't know about that, that program's been in place for a long time. And, folks at the DC are generally great to work with. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
this was
Thank you
very
all for having me.
informative.
I got a long drive ahead of me,
Is the presenter in
What was that?
the podium, the presenter?
It is, yep.
Okay, so next up, we have the continuation of the public hearing. South Quarry Natural Resource Removal Permit. Did you wanna say anything? I just give a brief update, see if there's any comments.
I'm Mike Fogel, I'm the attorney representing Casella Quarries. There's not much of by way of an update. We did submit a letter from our consultant, JMT, to address some of the comments that we did receive from the public hearing, and also Attorney Sutphin had prepared a memo. So was really targeted towards responding to that and providing some additional information, a lot of which we had already previously provided, but we wanted to kind of succinctly be able to state it so everyone could look at it in one place without necessarily having to go to the 100-page submission that we made. So we provided that. I did have a call with Attorney Sutphin and Labella Engineering to review any comments that they had. So we did have that call yesterday, and I believe they're just in the process of wrapping up their review and providing any comments that they had to Jamie.
And that was about the secret.
Yes, exactly, yes. And then I know we received the comment letter from Onondaga County Planning today, which looks pretty much like there's no comments.
Yeah.
And so that was great. So I think at this point, we're happy to hear any additional comments that there are tonight, but otherwise we're hoping that at the next meeting, we'll be able to move towards finalizing.
The conversation I had with Attorney Sutton today was that the secret process is moving along great. And that she's gonna be drafting up our amendments to the permit sometime next week to get to the board, and then we'll get those posted on the draft agenda as soon as that's published, so.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank
Nothing
you.
further from us.
Great.
Thank you.
So if anyone's here virtually that wants to speak for the consolidatory public hearing, please use the raise hand function. Sorry. So just show of hands if you'd like to make a comment about the quarry permit. So I put some of you guys.
I think we should leave it open. I did get a query from a resident today by email last week where she can find more information from minutes and things I haven't posted yet, so I think we should leave it there.
We'll do that.
Then the final report on the secret will be available and you can comment on that.
Great.
So we'll leave it open.
Okay, so next up, we have the continuation of the public hearing, the amendment to the PUD for hybrid senior apartments.
One image on there that has the aerial image. I'll start off. Scott Freeman, Captain of Freeman Landscape Architects, Tom Douglas, developer, Bill. Unfortunately, our architect's not here tonight, so Tom's going to try his hand at fielding architectural questions. And
Big shoes to fill.
he's good.
I've been to a few of these.
And if you could call, if there's one image, there were a lot of questions on the neighborhood last time. So on the one that says, yeah, high bridge with aerial, there were a lot of neighborhood context questions. So I just want to show the proposed development on top of the aerial. I think that might be very helpful. So that being said, I know we had a pretty lengthy discussion last time. I'm just putting that up there for point of reference. So I want to run the meeting. We're here for Q&A.
So, there was some update I wanted to mention. Well, we did get back from county planning, so we're gonna be taking a look at that. And, you know, really we're here to hear any more feedback. So, if you're in the audience via Zoom, please use the raise hand function, and then just a show of hands who'd like to come up and make a comment for the hybrid senior apartments.
I think you wanted to say a few words, just sort of in response to some of the comments.
If we could zoom out a little bit, because I think that'll help. Might hit the minus button there. There you go. So there were questions about connectivity, sidewalks. So that was one thing there. The village is here. So we have this. So you can see in red along the to the right of the entry drive. That's where the proposed sidewalk is going to go. And as John mentioned last time, if you don't put it in, there's no reason to get there. So that takes a lot of work, and the mayor can even jump in on this. It's a right of way, so it's not, let's get an order for some concrete and put it in. There's a lot of rights to that right of way. Just on our project alone, in red, we have a shared stormwater easement because our water goes from one side to the other. And we are also, that's stormwater easement, but we also have pedestrians going from a private place to the right of way. So the right of way, that's where you have to get your municipalities involved. And the thing I want to mention, at the last road, you have different roads. You have within the village, you have in town, you have town and village roads, so their DPW takes care of those. Then you have county roads that thread through, and they have a whole layer of government that administers and maintains those. And then, of course, you have the state. So you really have to get all three of those entities working together in the funding stream. So I just
Oh, that
wanted.
sounds like a piece of cake right there.
Yeah, that's well, the mayor can jump in here. We do this.
Got the funding,
Yeah,
easy.
Oh, and
It
the-
does happen, but John's setting the stage for this project because there's no place in your code that states that we have to provide sidewalks off-site. We took a common sense approach, Tom and Bill did when we got this project. We kind of partnered with the adjacent neighbor. We didn't come in and say, we want to be here. We said, would you like us to be here? We're providing a 55 plus place for people to go that don't want to be in their big homes. And the next step is, the unfortunate reality is if your loved one needs to be in a care facility, it's right there. So there's a symbiotic relationship here. And that's what community is. It's taking mixed elements and putting it together. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, where we left off. If there's any specific questions on lighting, parking, architecture, layout, those are, again, I wanted to say this at the last meeting also. I think we covered a lot of things in pieces. But the point of this meeting, Speaker John, is does this fit, is the question to be asked for this zone change? And then the details, we have to go forth. So by voting, does this fit? That's what you're voting on? Then that's okay. You vote yes or no. And then once you vote yes, all the little answers, little questions, those get addressed by the planning board. Is the lighting right? Is the parking right? Is the building height right? Do you have enough for stormwater? Do you have sufficient power? Garbage, views, make all those things. So that's my intro.
And then I'll just say too, I talked to the chief earlier this week. We did do some initial speed studies on Dartmoor. It's good for us. We've got a base. We're gonna kind of consume that information and make some adjustments here and there. That was one of the comments we had at the last public hearing. We wanted to make sure that we were addressing that as quick as we could to get a better understanding of where we're at now, so we can prepare. And if we see major changes after the development's in, we'll know that some remediation is needed. But even in the meantime, we're gonna address some of the data we found. So if you guys want to grab a seat, come on up.
Coming to those meetings, find out, I'm living in front of this, place. We keep coming to the meetings, we hear talks about sidewalks, pretty much to nowhere, because it's to a road. Everybody walk the grass. We hear conversations about, garbage cans and steps. Do we know how many apartments are we standing on right now? Because it was mentioned 80, 70, are we on 100 apartments?
What's the current?
So somehow it got bigger. Now we're 102, how many parking spots?
Sunday, if you want to go to the data chart.
130, do we know?
It's based on the number, there's a ratio for a 2-bedroom, we're gonna do 1.5 spaces per 2-bedroom. And then there's 1.5 bedrooms, they'll have 1 space per unit, and singles will have 1 space per unit. And just so you know, we do these all across the county and the state. Senior living facilities don't have a one-to-one relationship with everybody in there. And disagree with that, what the town has done is we put a land bank, we have 20 spaces in land bank, so we're not gonna pave the whole site. So if there's a problem with people parking in the right of way with the current parking data chart provided, we can expand 20 spaces on the site to accommodate for those additional spaces. I've worked on other projects.
So what you said
and
is
there's empty parking, there's parking lots that are empty.
1 bedroom, 1 car,
Yeah.
even though there's 2 people there, but they're at 55, they're not going anywhere, right? And a room and a half.
And just as a
2
reminder,
rooms
this
and
is a
1.5.
comment to the board, if you'd like to just address.
Yeah, I'm just, the parking space is not enough and there's no parking in this area at all. And you're putting now 100 apartments there. And we are 55, so we're not going anywhere. Apparently, and not having 2 cars. The whole hybrid, older people, some kind of a shuttle going back and forth. Someone will make sure that those 55 people, 55-year-old, they don't have kids living there. There's no one coming to visit them. They're not getting out of there. We heard before from the developer that they're actually in Florida in the winter. We live in front of this facility. We see who's coming to visit. Memorial Day, no one was there. Now they want apartments to live there. There's constant, we're hearing stories about why we need it to be so big. We watch you. We saw the previous meetings here with you when someone said, can it be a little bit smaller? And there's no one can say anything. I think it was already agreed on here. In the development board, the meeting board, someone says, it doesn't look like it fits the area, silent. Another person says, doesn't look like that, it looks like a dorm in the middle of our village. Supposedly you believe there's 100 cars that needs to be washed down the street, so everyone has cars, but apparently this place is not. 55-year-old, I turned 55 this week, not going anywhere, have 1.5 car, don't have kids with me, living with me that have a third car. This is we're watching this for a year now. Stories about stories, we're coming to the meetings and you're talking about garbage cans and a sidewalk that goes to absolutely nowhere. Everybody walk that grass. So this building is bigger. Please listen to the people that are sitting here. There's 1 or 2 people that may say, this is not fitting, this is too big. And pay attention to them, because it really looks like there's a lot of money signs in the eyes, and you already decided that you're gonna put this there. Even though last meeting, someone said, oh, there's a 4th floor. Yeah, there's a 4th floor. If you've seen the car wash down the street that they have now, put that 8 times. That's how big it's going to be in front of my house. Seems like you're trying to listen, but we listen to you too and we watch, and we see that you're accepting research or 55 that don't do anything. Don't go anywhere. They actually walk in that sidewalk to nowhere. There's gonna be a shuttle there, taking them to whatever they need. They're not gonna go to the gym. They're gonna have a gym there. And the whole story behind this building is absurd. The building is huge, and you're not reducing it. You can back with something bigger. By the way, the developer said in the development meeting that you've asked for more apartments. You told us at the beginning of the process that this came to you, you didn't ask for it. We are very confused. Where it comes from, who wants it there, and we saw this car wash that is tremendous. It's like New York City here. And I'm not sure that you know, there is 4 floors there, and it's huge. It's 100 apartments with barely any parking. We will call the police every time there will be a car parked in my car, in front of my car. This is not going to be people passing through all those streets really fast. And if you did that more police for the speeding, you said, it's not that more, it's high bridge. It's coming down from that curve really, really quick. Many cars, we're sitting in our backyards, we hear cars constantly, so I don't understand what research did you do from police that told you that the cars are okay there. I'm not gonna be surprised they're gonna be more than 103 apartments soon. This is getting bigger and it really, really needs to be smaller. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, can I just get your name for the record?
Hal Downey.
Any other hands for comments? Anybody in the audience needs it?
Just a quick question. Not a comment, but a question on the Tom Bassett, longtime town resident. So the question just relates to the broken red line on the plan. Is that all sidewalk extending, for example, out to Dartmoor and then almost parallel coming back? Is that all intended to be sidewalk or no?
It's one section from the entrance to the corner of Dartmoor.
Okay, what is the
What are the red lines?
what are the red
Oh, on
red lines?
site, that's a stormwater easement, that's on,
Oh,
that shows where when it rains, that
It's
shows
very
where the water goes. Yeah, no sidewalk,
okay.
yeah, that's grass.
So the only sidewalk is along
Right, there's the right of way, and then because that's a highly trafficked road, we're not putting the sidewalk in the right of way, we're putting it off onto Brookdale's property.
I thought you were gonna let the old people go circuit all the way around like that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I did map it on Google Maps as I was listening, and it's 0.2 miles from where this sidewalk will end and the village sidewalk begins. So it's not that far, and we are hoping, like you're correct, right now, this will be a sidewalk to nowhere, but our intent as the board, we're very passionate and committed to walkability, and we're hoping to start to knit together, especially where there are current sidewalks, more connectivity. So the plan will be eventually to develop a sidewalk project so that folks in that, in the neighborhood adjacent to it and in that facility could walk to the building.
Sounds like the pickleball courses that they asked the architects to put in the back, which I don't know where the pickleball place was gonna be, it's just imaginary between here or something.
John, there was, at the last hearing, most of the conversation pertained to the speed limits, the sidewalks, and traffic. We are probably, not only is it responsible development because we're targeting seniors and there is a dire need for housing for seniors in this town. There is nowhere for people to exit their home, get out from the property taxes and remain in this area. And so we are probably the best use for this site in the sense that we don't generate traffic. We probably are looking at 1 to 2 day trips a day per senior, per unit. We have underground parking, so half of our parking is contained underneath the building at a tremendous cost to the developer, to us. But we did that to be able to park the site. And I'm gonna go back to a previous meeting that we had with the town that was very informative for us. The town planner said, I love this project. He said, this is one of the best design projects I have seen in a long, long time. And if I'm gonna offer a criticism, it would be very, very petty. And as far as the sidewalks, there's a lot of conversation about these sidewalks. We've had exhaustive conversations with Brookdale, and the local management of Brookdale has embraced our project because they need places for their families to stay when they're visiting their clients. And we offered as a courtesy, month-to-month apartments for those people at market rate to stay, and even providing golf carts for them to ride across the parking to visit their family members who are staying at Brookdale. What is lost here is we are negotiating with a company called Welltower. They have a series of attorneys. They're not in New York. They don't care about this project. They don't care about sidewalks. We were able to negotiate the use and right of way of Brookdale's land to cross as an easement for the start of sidewalks. This is the start of sidewalks going to the village. We're paying for that. We're ensuring that at no cost to the town. And I'm afraid that if this gets nixed, those sidewalks will never get built because we're dealing with attorneys in Milwaukee and they're all over the place. I don't know if they've ever even been here. So it's very difficult, but we have an agreement in place with them.
They're the ones that manage Brookdale?
They manage, well, they own the property. They own the property. And something else I want to comment is the road. We talked extensively about the dedication of the road. Brookdale can no longer afford to maintain that road. It's not in their budget. The road, the useful life expectancy of the road is expired. It's in dire need of maintenance. So what we have offered Brookdale is to come in and said, we will bring that road up to town standards. We'll put in all the stormwater, we'll bring it up to code at our expense. Because Brookdale says, we don't want the maintenance on it anymore. So it's not feasible to think that we can share that road as a private road with Brookdale because it gets into all kinds of litigation issues. When you're dealing with seniors and people, Alzheimer's disease and the things that are happening, there's quite a few ambulances that arrive at Brookdale. We all know that, and it's unfortunate, it's sad. But if we're responsible and it's a private road, I'm gonna give you a worst case scenario. What if our plow driver doesn't show up and the ambulance can't get to Brookdale? Who's responsible? There's liability issues. We would rather pay for the cost of the road. It's a very short road. The town currently uses it anyway as a turnaround for their plows. And we would bring that and we would allow Brookdale to share that road with us. And I think it's a good use of taxpayer funds when you've got two tax-paying businesses on both sides sharing that same road.
Any other comments from anyone in the audience? And then. You heard from the county today.
So basically, we're just passing this to the planning board.
At this point, yes. They've got, the county said to continue to work with, and some comments is, making sure wetlands mapping is correct. And what we've heard time and time again, the long-eared bat, the Indiana bat, so all, the county has let us know it's all things, I'm pretty sure it's all things we heard in the first go around.
That's right.
So, if the board is interested, it's consider this, we can wait.
I'm ready to do that. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to,
Give you one second.
No.
So this has been a project that we've had a lot of conversations with the neighbors, a lot of conversations with folks in the community. And it's really important to remember that when we are looking at a project like this, at a big project like this, yes, we know people have come and they've said, we're concerned about the size, we're concerned about the parking. And I will say between this board and the planning board and the developer, we've really tried to meet the concerns that we've seen. The other thing to consider is every meeting, there's a comprehensive plan that is adopted law that calls for high density residential, for a diversity of housing, and for all of the things that this project contains. And that is a plan that was shopped out through the entire community. We actually went way above and beyond trying to get that feedback. When we make these decisions, it is not our opinion plus the opinions we hear. It is the totality of speaking with folks at their doors. I can't downsize, I can't maintain this property. And yes, sometimes when we build new developments that the town has agreed we need, we have to center the greater good, but at the same time, keep an eye to mitigating any of the issues. So if anyone feels that this board has not responded to comments, I think that's false. And if it feels that maybe we have a reason to be doing this, it's because we adopted a comprehensive plan and our job is to implement that comprehensive plan. So yes, every time we have these meetings where we're looking at a big development, we have to remember that there are hundreds of people who wrote in to comments and filled out a survey that said, this is what we want. We want sidewalks to nowhere, so we eventually have sidewalks to somewhere. We want housing. So I think it's really important to remember, think about, it is not just what happens here, it is every conversation these counselors have with every resident of the town. And it's extensive studies from professionals that we have to trust, because they're professionals, they're the experts, that say, we're not super concerned about the parking, and if we are, there's bank parking. We're concerned about the traffic, we're actively working on traffic mitigation plans. So just so that we can all understand the totality of what is going on with this project, after we call for a vote, this project doesn't end. It is a much longer process, but we have to remember that sometimes when we are trying to cite 102 units for members of our community to stay in our community, yeah, there's gonna be a couple downsides to the project. But I think we work diligently with the developer, with our planner, with the planning board to address as many of those issues as possible.
I did attend a conference yesterday and it was all about workforce development and micron coming and everything else. And I asked how could the town of Manlius support economic development in our community and throughout the region? And they said senior housing, give people out of their houses so that families can move in, and that helps the seniors to get out from under that burden. So I'm excited that we're moving forward with a project that will do just that.
Yeah, absolutely, because so four to 5 years ago, we were focus groups and interest discussions around the comprehensive planning process. And I was asked to facilitate the housing one, and it was a robust response from all throughout the town and its villages supporting projects exactly like this. 4.5, 5 years ago, this wasn't even an idea, it wasn't even a plan yet. I do know in the county recommendations, just an advisory note, it was a little bit of a surprise to me to learn that the closest Centro stop was 2 miles away. Given that Wildwood Ridge Apartments is right there, that's kind of strange to me. And I only bring that up because I do in my day-to-day life, I mean, I'm saturated with housing instability and work every single day. So everything about this plan is attempting to balance the interests of people while meeting the actual pinnacle of hierarchy needs here. We need more housing for everybody, but particularly for this demographic. But in another project that I manage, we were able to communicate with a local mobility management company to just make the new facility a stop on the route. So I would encourage the developer to open that conversation with Central and see what you can do to bring public transit. It would do something to address the volume of cars. It would provide an option, also a double benefit, because you do have the large Wildwood Ridge Apartments across the street, and if there were a public transit stop there, that would hit a couple of boxes for people's concerns. But other than that, again, I've said it at the last meeting, and I'll say it at the end of each public hearing that's slightly contentious. This is about housing. This was a housing project. And we'll attempt to meet the balanced interests of everybody involved and address every concern. But at the end of the day, we need to make good on our promise to the community that they are on the rules. This is a part of our comprehensive plan. So we vote on this project.
We lost video, hold on.
Alright, are we good now?
We're good.
Focus. I have to wait. I'd like to make a motion to adopt local law 2025-4, amending chapter 155-20.8 entitled Adopted District Plans of the Code of the Town.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up, we have, this is the beginning of the public hearing, for the proposed local law amendment, chapter 155, section 20.2 of the town code entitled Planned Unit Developments. And my understanding too is we are waiting for the next round of county feedback on this, so we're here to listen to comments, have a conversation, and then we'll move along with the rest of the business on the agenda. So I will.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Motion to open public hearing.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Just, if you're in the audience, on Zoom, please use the raise hand function, and then if anybody here has a comment, just raise your hand.
We're gonna keep the public hearing open.
So later, we're gonna be getting some feedback from the county, so on our next agenda, we'll have that added,
No,
and then we'll be able to,
it won't be two.
two meetings?
Two meetings, yes.
Okay.
What, can you remind me what this is for? I
For the PUD, we'll have to add our. And also to want some feedback. from
This is
the
what
conference.
there's a few of them. So, Carrie, is there a delay in the county that we won't make it till the next one after?
No, the next meeting is not until 2 meetings from now, it's not until the end of July, we already had their June meeting.
Oh,
So,
I see.
okay, it's a July meeting.
All right, so this
Their
is
first,
open until July.
yeah,
what do you mean to add RA? Okay,
All right, so feasible.
oh, okay, understood.
so it'll be, Sarah, just so you know, it'll be like today, I'll get it in the afternoon and then post it to the agenda.
Okay.
Cause it'll end up on
For
that.
the July meeting.
Yes,
Do we have an interest from someone that wants to develop a PUD in RA or just?
Yes, based on conversations with some developers, but also with the county. And really, when we wrote the PUD law, as we do with most of some of the bigger stuff we've been doing, is we try to limit the scope so that we don't get inundated, like with the ADUs.
Right.
What we found is we've had some success with PUDs, And when you consider, I don't know what percentage, 60% of the town is restricted agricultural, this is gonna give us that flexibility to cite projects that make sense, but important. This does not amend the RA zone, so we are not adding anything by right to the RA zone, which I think is really the major concern that I heard, but we are in no way adding any by right, capability to the RA zone. So,
Yes, no, I think that's a perfect fit, because we don't wanna know everything everywhere, but that gives us the ability to do it if we want to.
okay, so we will hold this public hearing over. And then, our last public hearing on the Mulberry Lane Lighting District.
Right, so this is new, so I'll read it.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Williams.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Anyone here to make a comment on the Mulberry Lane Lighting District?
So this is to add the second streetlight on Mulberry.
Very controversial.
Make a motion to close.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I would like to make a motion to adopt the resolution increasing or improving the facility for lighting district number 1 pursuant to Article 12 of the town law.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Your articles, read it.
Well, and National Grid put up with this.
No.
No, they're waiting for this approval to put both of them up.
Oh, this is me again. Sorry, I had to turn. So we have, some of you may remember that we've been looking at a particular stormwater area on Murfield Drive where there's a catch basin that was built and that's housing was existing and it is now ending its useful life and it needs to be replaced. So we have been working with people to come up with that. So this is the first step, this is the secret step to authorize that. We will then plan some bidding. We are actually anticipating the work would happen in spring of 26. So we're planning ahead. But this is a drainage district, so unlike village, the residents of the district are saving up money to pay for this work. And so this will be their third year of, by going in the spring, it'll be their third year of saving the money, which will be enough money to pay for the work to be done. So this is not a public hearing.
It's just.
Yeah, just this.
Just a so, unless anybody has questions, motion to adopt a secret resolution as presented, finding that the Muirfield Stormwater Improvement Project will not result in significant adverse environmental effect. I would say we'll be reversed.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, so every year we redo our CIRO and SDO agreements with both FM and ESM. We were proactive this year, we got everything kind of straightened out. I want to thank the chief and the town clerk for putting a lot of effort into working with the schools on this. And I will say, very excited, something from behind the scenes is that we are going to be leveraging DocuSign, which is new for the town. For these documents to get signed, this is kind of our next big, like, let's make it more complicated.
Tell me you're a nerd without telling me you're a
I don't know
nerd.
what's that.
I am exciting news.
You might be turning me into a nerd, because I got just as excited.
So these are, the CIRO agreements are very specific to each of the officers, the SBO agreements are much more generic. We have tried to streamline as much as we can here, I know it's annoying that we have to do each one separately, but we have a number of motions prepared.
I'll whip through these super fast.
I think Willie, yeah, let's go for it, so
Well,
you
can
can
you
say.
do the first time and I'll do the second time? I wanna read that.
Let's make a motion to approve the supervisor and chief of police to sign the CIRO agreement between the town of Manlius and the East Syracuse Manila Central School District for Officer Kellogg.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve the supervisor and chief of police to sign the CIRO agreement between the town of Manlius and the Fayetteville Manlius Central School District for Officer Brogan.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Make a motion to approve the supervisor and chief of police to sign a cyber agreement between the town of Manlius and the Fayetteville Manlius Central School District for Officer Golden.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries.
Make a motion to approve the supervisor to sign the SPO agreement between the town of Manlius and Fayetteville Manlius Central School District for Rockwood Elementary.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries.
Motion to approve the supervisor to sign the SPO agreement between the town of Manlius and the Fayetteville Manlius Central School District for Eagle Hill Middle School.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Right, wait, when did we go off? This one? I'd like to make a motion to approve the supervisor to sign the SPO agreement between the town of Manlius and the Fayetteville Manlius Central School District for Fayetteville Elementary School.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the supervisor to sign the SPO agreement between the town of Manlius and the Fayetteville Manlius Central School District for both middle school.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the supervisor to sign the SPO agreement between the town of Manlius and the East Syracuse Middle Central School District.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
It's such a big and important part of the department's activities now. so-
Yeah, I remember when we started this.
Okay, so next up, we have a resolution. I don't remember exactly what the bill is, but supporting a bill that is targeted at reducing, supporting the New York State Assembly and Senate to pass a strong packaging reduction and recycling infrastructure.
Who that brought this to our attention, was it you, Sarah? Would you like to make a motion?
So I would like to make a motion to adopt a resolution supporting the New York State Assembly and Senate to pass a strong packaging reduction and recycling infrastructure.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Let's see. Yeah, actually, so this will be, this is my bad. We were supposed to figure out where this was gonna be coming from. We didn't, yeah, no, it's been a week, I'll say that. So there's a little bit of an overage that one of the grants that the court is getting isn't gonna cover. So what we'll do is we'll have that prepared as a budget transfer for next week to cover that fund, to cover just that cost. I think it's $2,000 or $3,000, something like that. So not too difficult to find.
Yeah.
Okay, so then next up, we have the 2025 recreation staff for board approval. And so we've got that on the agenda. Again, this is something we do pretty much every year. We've got a long list of staff that are gonna be helping out for all of the different programming that we put on. Any questions?
On behalf of Alyssa, we couldn't be here. I would be happy to make a motion to approve the 2025 recreation staff as presented and comment, I guess, favorably on the recreation department successfully recruiting such a full complement of staff this early in the year, including lifeguards, which are always a challenge. So congratulations to them.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, 2025 summer bus lease contract with Fayetteville Manlius Schools. Any questions on this? Same thing we do every year. Look for a motion.
Make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the town of Manlius bus lease summer program agreement between Fayetteville Manlius School District and the town of Manlius for that department.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, Town Clerk, would you like to tell us a little bit about East Road?
Yes.
We're being nerds.
Yeah.
Now we're leaning into the nerd energy.
So at Mystica, I came across this company called eScribe. What it is, it's an agenda program, kind of like what we use now, but kind of on steroids. It's much bigger. It does much more. It would allow us to have customized templates. So we would be more uniform across the board. It's not gonna be board doing it this way, zoning board doing it this way, planning board doing it this way. It also gives us the ability to allow committees to generate their own agendas and kind of run their own agendas to be posted to the website, because that's kind of a problem. Sarah and I were talking about it a little while ago with the comprehensive steering committee. We don't want to post on the website with that, but with this program, it's easy enough to where we can generate templates for these meetings and live stream through our website.
So possibly like the age-friendly group.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, age-friendly, the Quarry Commission, John and I spoke about that.
Well, actually, give us the tools we need.
Yeah, give us the tools we need to be able to do that, to where I don't have to be here for every meeting, John doesn't have to be here for every meeting, it's literally a click of a button and it goes. with that live streaming, it'll eliminate the box cast, which can be whatever, not reliable. Yeah, it's not, yeah.
It's one of those things that it fails twice a year and then we have no idea why it did it, we have no idea how to fix it and.
And then we're on the phone for an hour trying to figure it out. But with this program, we can live stream directly through our website by click of a button on the agenda. So as I'm sitting here, I can click the button and it's gonna live stream it to YouTube, Facebook, and we still would have to use it as a platform. It's also gonna give us the ability to timestamp areas in the agenda. So as we're going through the meeting, I can click a button on that item and it's gonna timestamp it in the video. So anybody going back to look at the video can say, oh, I wanna see what they did with the silent SBO contracts. Instead of having to scroll and try and find it, they click on that item, it's gonna take them right to that point in the video. So it'll make it a little bit easier for the residents to get to the point that they wanna get at. As far as minutes will be a little more accurate, and they'll be done quicker. Because the minutes will be done as we're going through the meeting. It gives us the ability to upload the
So
motion.
just the transcribing.
Yeah, basically,
So
as,
would that then also be an accommodation for a person?
no, I'd still be doing them, but what it'll be is the motions will already be in there, because I'll pre-put the motions in. And then as you guys are voting, I either do, it was a unanimous vote, or, you know, you guys abstained or nay or whatever, I can just go through and do it, and it will automatically generate the minutes when we're done. I can also have the ability to go back and make modifications the next day if need be. So it'll make it more uniform and it'll make it a little bit quicker to get them done. With the live streaming, it'll eliminate the step of having to upload the video to the website after every meeting. So now Lisa or I have to go into YouTube, upload it from YouTube into the website, it'll eliminate that because it'll already be there. It can go with any website, so which is good because we're still looking at different website providers.
So basically, the agenda center that we currently use is part of our Civic Plus package, which I think is 15 years old.
It's,
Yeah. It's awful.
And realistically, Agenda Center hasn't had a meaningful update in 10 years. So this is like it eliminates box casts, streamlines quite a bit. And I will say, the amount of time saving that it's gonna bring to the clerk's office is gonna be great. And then it's also, like I said, all the downstream effects affecting all the other boards and commissions and things like that, so.
Yeah.
I think, we are gonna have to do a budget amendment for this.
Right.
A lot of the conversations been around some of the additional funds we'll have from the most recent round of investing. So we're gonna be looking for ways to get that, and if everyone's on board, we can onboard it this year, get it implemented so that by January, we can, sign that full year-long contract, but already be able to provide the additional benefits.
It'll be a full year contract. If we sign by June 30th, it'll be the full year until June next year, so it'll give us the whole year, and plus it'll help with the transition from one website to the other as well.
Because we'll be able to do this transition, have it running, and then do the website, so it'll help out quite a bit. And it makes it so that we aren't looking for a website that also has an agenda, which makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. I mean, the system is like everything exactly the way you want it, it's not.
No, it's almost self-defeating to try to do that, like, cause you end up with, like, Facebook, for example, like, once it became like a place you could list things for sale and like play games, like all of a sudden everything got cumbersome and all the upsets now, cause they ruined it.
So it's just in front of the board for consideration, we'll prepare the amendments and everything, transfers for next week. If there's any question in the meantime.
The only question I have is around the video, like, we happen to be using Zoom. If we decided to use webcast or something, can we do that?
Yeah, they'll integrate with any streaming program that we need them to.
Do we pay for Agenda Center?
Yes.
How much does that cost?
It's integrated right in with.
Yeah, and it's probably, $200,000 a year as part of the total Civic Plus package, so it's more expensive, but we're getting it.
How much more expensive is it?
This one is just, well, with the deal that they're giving us, because they're giving us a percentage off of the annual fee, plus a percentage of they're giving us the training and everything for half price. It's 17 or 18,000 for the first year. And then he's going to write it in there that it will only increase 4% when it normally has an increase of 7 to 8%.
Okay.
Annually,
So it's quite a bit more expensive than.
it is, but I think some of the websites that we're looking at are cheaper because we're not looking for all of these additional pieces that E-Scribe gives us.
And two, if we like just went the simple route and take the one that Civic Plus offers, it's, I think it's about the same price or more expensive, and it doesn't have any features. So it's a nice addition to the.
And you heard about this where, you said?
Through the Town Clerks Association seminar that Lisa and I just went to.
Okay.
Back a couple months ago.
Yeah, I guess I want to have references from the other communities who were involved.
I'm sure we can get those.
Okay. I think I sent out a couple of case studies.
Yeah,
In an email as well,
So we'll
But that was from the company.
we'll look and see if we can find out.
I do, thank you, I think it's a neat idea, my question, I mean, we'll talk about it, you know, we'll have this, because my first simple question was sort of like, for $20,000, couldn't we just have a person do it? You know, but let's talk about it.
Yes.
Find out.
Let's see, so next up, we have budget modifications. This is for a new grant that the police have found, so we need to modify the budget to reflect that. Know what this grant is gonna be covering the cost of?
Yes, I do. Thank you. This is one in which that we applied for in 2023 legislative grant through New York State. And this was specific to our traffic safety program. That 55,017 cents is earmarked for purchase of 2 new traffic trailers, our traffic trailers that we utilize. They were ones in which that I ordered 2000. So they're about 25 years old. We use them constantly. When folks come in and concerned about not only the appearance of traffic concerns and traffic violations, but also for us to collect data. So we use those boards to collect data to help pinpoint what's something that is an actual violation that's occurring, when is it occurring, what frequency is it occurring, so that we can be more surgical in our ability to put resources out there, personnel. It helps us track all of those types of speeding and volume issues. So there's 2 new ones attached to this. There's one remodification of one of our older ones, so it gives us the new guts, because the ones we have right now don't track the data anymore. They're too old. And so it allows us to remanufacture one of them. It also provides an additional speed spy, which is something in which that when folks say, hey, we're having these issues and we don't want to put something that would genuinely like change a driver's behavior. We just want to measure what's happening in that area. It not only counts them, but it gives us the speeds and the frequencies of the data. So that's also on there.
Is that when I sometimes see like a rope across the road, is that what that's doing?
So that's an older technology that is used by, we used to use that when we first started our traffic program, but that's in use by other organizations that will do that. And the reason he got away from that is because we have to put giant poles in. So we have to stake them down. And there's someone in this room that gets really angry when we disturb his blacktop.
Who's that
I'm not looking in his general direction. So we try to.
I'm not even a resident. What are you calling out?
Our highway superintendent
That feels
and
better.
our partners.
I was looking at Mark now, I was like, it's Mark, isn't it?
And our partners.
Rob's happy to do that.
Also our partners in our village DPWs. So we have been using this technology for about 10 years. This would give us a second unit, an updated unit, so that we can put multiples out. Because we go from the 6 months of weather that precludes a lot of things, and then all of a sudden we're out there. And this would allow us to really bring our traffic safety program to where it needs to be, and to also be able to deal with, you know, all of the questions that our residents have and concerns that they have as, you know, as the town considers.
So for example, after the last meeting, when I talked with Jim about it, we used a sweet spot on Dartmoor to start getting baseline data. So and it was our, so we had to wait, get it installed and then get the data, so just more of those.
So we could do that on the curb at High Bridge the same way. So
Sure.
if people are speeding there, we'll know. And because this is more just, like, if people see the trailer with a big thing on it, they slow down.
Yeah, it changes driver behavior, yeah, which is great. So we use that as a part and parcel of our program, but we try to do an analysis first.
Yeah.
And then it also includes one of those signs very similar to what that you have, Mr. Highway Superintendent, that we would post and also has lights, like red lights and stuff. So when we have problematic areas, we can place that in that area. And also collect data, but have it there on a regular basis, and it's not as big of a footprint.
So why is it a budget adjustment? Because we had discussed this earlier, that receiving a legislative grant is great, but the awarded funds usually come much, much later.
Right.
So plan for it in 2023,
Yes.
we're awarded, and finally get the funds here, we're in 2025. So
Yeah.
that's great. I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget modification, increasing the revenue account 8 fund 4.3389.447, grant funded revenue in the amount of $55,017, and increasing the expenditure account 8 fund 5.3120.447, grant expenditures in the amount of $55,017.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Just no giving counselor Basil any tickets.
So before we get into the supervisor's report, I did want to let everybody know, we were working pretty diligently to try to get some quotes on what we can do to patch the roof. We were lucky enough to get those in. The initial conversations were in the $250,000 to $500,000 to get what we needed done, and we were gonna pare down from there. But I will say, we got a quote, from the folks that we've been working with forever, that have been on the roof. We are gonna be looking somewhere in the range of somewhere between 80 and 140, depending on how much of the roof we wanna do, so.
You trying to ease me into this by starting with a
Well, no, I'm giving you
$500,000?
good news, because the cost that we expected to be very high is much lower. And we're gonna, my hope is, we're gonna have to figure out exactly where we're gonna pull all those funds from. But the goal would be to get that approved as soon as possible, so that we can get on the schedule, so that we're not
To
getting.
do the work yourself.
Exactly. So, I just wanted to give everybody an update, I'll make sure, I thought I had sent out the quote to everybody, but I don't think I did. So we'll get that out to everybody, so if there's any questions.
Maybe we could get a quote for how much it costs for like 10,000 turkey pants. See if that's cheaper.
I mean, Chris can get those numbers together, so, we can definitely take a look. Okay, so next up, supervisor report.
So I would like to make a motion to approve the supervisory report for May 2025 as presented by the town's comptroller.
Second.
Favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Approve minutes.
All right, motion to approve the minutes from the May 20. Ready? Yep. May 28th meeting of the board.
I'll second.
Yes, all those in favor? Aye.
Yes, and I shall be abstaining.
Abstaining, so we do have enough votes to pass.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned it, because I was a little bit nervous that you can't wait. I mean, it's a corner, because I'm here, you guys can't go.
And then do you want to do announcements?
Yeah, go for it.
So we do have, the boat float is Saturday. The one at Poolsbrook is at 11 o'clock. There's unfortunately the one at Chitney is also at 11 o'clock if you paddle really fast. You can get it off. And the comprehensive plan steering committee is tomorrow. It is not live, but it will be recorded, so if anybody that can't come in person may see.
What's on your agenda?
It's basically our annual review, setting goals for next year.
Go for it, Andrew.
Okay, just an announcement that we had our first listening session at the Manlius Senior Center today. We talked about what improvements we could make it as a town, what people would like to see, Housing, of course, was a popular topic, affordable senior housing within the town, so people can remain in their community. We have a survey that is now on our website. If you go to the search bar and search on age-friendly community or age-friendly committee, the survey will be on that page. We also have a paper copy version for folks that are not as comfortable using technology in answering the survey. And Duffy Hartnett, John's admin, will have those at his desk. So either way, we welcome participation. We're encouraging people age 45 and over. Yes, Caitlin, I know it seems like a young age bracket. We're trying to capture information from two generations. So it could be individuals who are already older and trying to figure out how to navigate, and also children of older adults who are thinking to the future. So
how can we best share that with folks? How would you like me to get the help with the word out about that? Other than just like word of mouth?
So we'll be at Fayetteville Party in the Plaza. We're doing presentations at all the libraries. And so if you want to chat more about that, yeah, I welcome ideas. We have a committee working on it.
Excuse me, I'm still getting over the flu here. Have you spoken with the representatives from the senior center to get in front of them? Okay.
So, we're gonna put it out through social media, we'll get on the website, and then just word them out. Great. Any other announcements?
I have a question actually. Over the last couple of years, Sustainable Manlius has gone through like ebb and flow in terms of like our focus areas, and after we passed Earth along to the recreation department, we haven't had as much to do. And been trying to figure out like what direction that we want to take. And one of the things that had come up that we kind of vacated, as Anne will recall, we tried to do a native garden at town hall. In the middle of the night, someone put cardboard everywhere, which that started blowing around, and we ended up abandoning it because we just couldn't all get on the same page. Everyone had a different idea. I'd like to start working on that again. Is there an opportunity in June to reevaluate the landscaping contract that we have so that this could all be integrated rather than just doing a small plot in the middle of the grass?
We could definitely have a conversation. Folks are doing our landscaping.
Yeah.
Probably a conversation starts this year and it's about the next year. I mean, understanding there will be increased costs and things like that, but we could absolutely talk to them and get an understanding of what it would look like.
Would you be amenable at all to changing who we work with if there was an expert native planting landscaper?
So the only thing is, we have very specific needs and we're working with the same company to do landscaping and shoveling. And so we would just have to make sure that we're not, gonna look again for somebody else. We probably wanna go through a normal process like we usually do, but then we'd also just have to make sure that we're shoring up all the other needs that we're meeting today.
And that contract could only be reevaluated at the end of the year?
We can evaluate it now in preparation for, a new contract for next.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
And for the abstract.
So I would make a motion to approve the abstract in the amount of $502,138.62.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.